Hello, everybody, and welcome to now, which is just me and possibly Bree might be joining us, but now just a random rant kind of thing. But I just want to say thanks for joining me. I do apologize. My guest Knock, obviously he couldn't make it or something happened. So I just want to talk a second and sort of I did have a whole list of questions for him, but what I might do is just sort of go through some of them and give my own feelings and opinions, because I don't have anything else planned. So this will be impromptu, seat of the pants, completely unorthodox and hopefully entertaining. I don't know. Let's fingers crossed. Let's just charge down that runway and see if the plane will fly. So I just want to sort of talk and sort of say, why do we catastrophize, right? So immediately I thought, and my brain does this. I think all of our brains do this, right? You basically, somebody doesn't make it to something, they're brushing me off. Why have they this? You don't know, like when you think rationally, you have no idea why somebody hasn't sort of made. There could be issues in his life. There could be all kinds of things happening. I think there's a tendency for humans to assume the worst kind of thing, and it's kind of that you're meeting up with your partner or your wife or your significant other, and you sort of go, oh, what's happened to them, kind of thing. This tendency to catastrophize rather than sort of say, well, you don't know, and think logically and rationally, and then start thinking things like a healthy adult, like somebody that basically we don't know. And so I hope Knock's okay. It's no problem at all. I can go live. I can chat to you guys. We can have a fun time. It's not a problem at all. So this whole catastrophizing, I want to get better at, or better at not doing, basically. So I'm so glad you all joined me. Hello, Peter. No, I am not giving that man error. I think I know the video that you're talking about, and I'll just check it out. Yeah. No, I'm not interested in that, Peter. I really am not. Look, so I think so this is about Jill, or Jesus is Lord, or reprove and rebuke, or rebuke and however he puts his name around. He kind of, we did one debate and he's kind of got a little obsessed with me, which I don't understand. It was one debate and he's kind of getting very, if I was in the same country and if he knew where I lived, I'd start to get worried, kind of thing. Like he's very obsessive. So I think I'm just going to ignore him, because he's not really worth my time, Peter. I'm sorry, mate. He's just not worth my time. But what I want to talk about, and I had tons of questions for Knock, but what I want to talk about is sort of, and I like to talk about people and where they think the atheist movement is going. Like, why are we out here? What are we doing? Obviously, my channel's not monetized, so I'm not here to make money. But why are we here? What are we doing? What we're doing, kind of thing, is one of my favorite questions. I think that. In my case, part of it was sort of almost therapeutic kind of thing, to sort of present myself out there and sort of worry less about what people think of me, just to say, hey, if you don't like me, you don't like me. If you do, you do. This is who I am. But obviously, I feel that the atheism movement, and it is a movement. It's organizations are getting formed. I kind of want to add my voice to that, and sort of and as it's been mentioned before, the atheist movement is like herding cats. It's everybody has their own thing that they're doing, which is why the question of where are we going, when you ask somebody in the atheist movement, it's so fascinating, because sort of you do get similar answers, but almost everybody gives a different answer. It's fantastic. It's like uh, it's it's like those. I think they call them um, yes, I should have called it that. Actually, I don't know if YouTube will ping me for it, but I should have called it that. You're right. I'm so sorry, girl. But it's almost like those king rats that have their tails locked together, kind of thing. I don't mean like we're literally interlinked, but it's sort of atheists are pulling in all different directions, but still generally moving in the same direction. And I love asking that question. Well, Breeze showed up, so I'm gonna add the lovely Bumblebee.
Hey.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well. Having a bad hair day, but I'm well.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, bandana it up. That's not a problem. I'm also having a bad hair day. I'm not
I
sure
can
if you
see,
can tell.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's this one hair just will not go down.
It
It's
needs a good
terrible.
spit shine. Just put your
Yeah,
elbow
a bit
on
of
there.
waxing. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the reading room is very clever. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's a
That
good name.
was spur of the moment thing kind of stuff, so I just threw it up. Gurr disagrees. He thinks that it should be called Mark of the Beast. I like that as well. I do.
Yeah, the mark of the beast.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, I've got a whole bunch of stuff here for Nock, but I guess I could discuss with you the whole Gaiath conversation if you do want to continue that.
Oh yeah, where do we leave off? Oh my goodness,
I
yeah.
have no idea. It was the idea of a superorganism,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I said I would think about what I thought of that because we didn't have a lot of time last time. Hey, where do you think the atheist movement is going? Like, where would you like to see it go? What would you like to see out of the sort of, because you're a obviously a well-known person in the YouTube kind of atheist scene.
Yeah. I mean, I'm everywhere, right? Everybody
Right.
kind of knows who I am, and um, I hope
You get
that
around.
yeah,
I will, yeah.
my branch of the movement that I grew off of was the friendly atheist approach, which comes on the tail of the hammers like Aaron Raw and Matt Dillahunty, these guys
Right.
with a really aggressive approach to epistemological questions. I think what I think inspired this branch of the movement was Anthony Magnabosco with
I don't know
his
who that is.
okay, he's a street epistemologist.
Right. Oh, I think I've seen him before. Didn't Aaron Ra, go and do stuff with him, and
Yeah,
he
he
was
tried to
incapable of doing street epistemology. Yes.
right, yeah. So it's more of a friendly, analytical, Socratic approach.
Mm,
Street epistemology is to understand why people have the beliefs they do, and that's kind of
mm,
that where my approach comes from is asking. So I try not to be hostile to the fact that people do believe these things,
right.
but to question why they believe the things
Mm,
and maybe question why I believe the things that I do along the way, including
mm,
things I believe as an atheist, and from my position as an atheist in the community, right?
yeah. Yeah, I think it's really important to apply the same level of skepticism to your own beliefs as everybody else's. Absolutely. There's probably things that I've sort of checked myself on since becoming part of the community, I guess. Things that I thought were true that, if you're pointed out, you just don't keep believing them. But I want to give some shout outs to Gurr and Skywatcher. Love you, man. You're a champ. AA Ron. Hello, AA Ron. Aaron Colson. Pat, hello. Yeah, I think that I don't know. I would like to see like a sort of global community network. I would like to see sort of um, the atheist movement being the stewards of science kind of thing, the real people who will lobby for reason and sort of science and technology and all of that kind of stuff.
Towards the betterment of mankind, right?
Right. So sort of the real stewards of rationality, and I don't think we've got to pummel everybody into that, but I would like to see a sort of really tight-knit community of people that uphold those values. But like I said, atheists are too hard to organize. They will just run in every single direction. It's great.
Yeah, there's no consistency in anything besides the fact that they don't believe in God. There's a lot of atheists that have more in common with a conservative Christian than they will with myself, for instance.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and I still get the thing like, you don't believe in anything, and it's like, wow, that's so wrong. I still get that. I don't know how people can believe that. If I didn't believe in anything, how would you even function? It's so strange that people, theists still believe that. I find it odd, very odd.
That's like a presuppositionalist position, though. How can you have any coherent understanding of the world at all if you don't understand everything? It's like,
well, not necessarily. I mean, I sort of met a deist on my last debate who was kind of, you're atheist, you don't believe in anything. And he wasn't a presup, I don't think, anyway. He was just a deist, and he thought the same thing. And it's like, no, you've been listening to the wrong people. I believe in stuff. I do. Trust me on that. I think with Gaia, we kind of got up to the superorganism, and I had a think about it. Okay, ready, Brie? I had a think about it, right? So an organism, so if you're making the parallel of an organism being sort of where the cells in the organism kind of thing, organism cells usually don't attack one another, right?
but there's systems to regulate other parts of other cells within the system, right?
Regulate other cells within the system. Yeah, but we're as far as sort of cells in a superorganism, we kind of wipe out a lot of those cells, those other organisms, if they're the analogy for cells, right?
Well, our body spends a lot of time wiping out cells that become cancerous and things like that too. So your body also fights portions of itself that are not beneficial to the rest of the organism anymore because the cells have gone bad.
No, totally. But I don't think that it's the same thing, because the other cells, like the other organisms, are perfectly functional within their ecology. There's nothing wrong about them or harmful to the superorganism about them. They just, are killed by other organisms, sometimes en masse, So
Well, like, hold on. So your gut flora, it's not like just a happy little guy living in there. No, not being consumed by any other organisms or anything like that. It's a whole ecology going on in your stomach. It's not just organisms that aren't vying with each other for niches and things like that. Different populations of different types of bacterias and yeast in your stomach that are competing for space and control, just like any animal in any organism in any environment.
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't know. I think that the level of I don't see the analogy, because humans can come along, or actually for any matter, any pervasive species can come along and sort of wipe out another species kind of thing. and the extinction events that has happened.
Right,
Yeah,
like bacteria that thrives in your gut, right, finds its way into your pancreas. And suddenly you have pancreatitis, and that invasive bacteria that got in there or into your gallbladder, whatever the situation, your appendix.
yeah,
Um, these bacteria that may thrive in one system or in one organ migrating into another could be detrimental to your health, right? And it could be detrimental to that organ, thus
yeah.
wiping out the population of native bacteria that lives inside that organ.
Well, that's true, but we kind of differentiate between sort of what has our DNA and our our cells and
Yeah.
the bacteria. Even if they're beneficial, we can still differentiate between them.
But they're still part of the system, right?
Well, sure, yeah, they are, but I just I don't know. I must admit, biology isn't exactly my strong suit, but I would expect more to be an organism, even a superorganism. I would expect more of the same DNA structure to be there. I don't get how something could be part of an organism yet have like not just have um, different DNA like a invasive bacteria or something like that, or a yeast or something, but every single sort of group of cells has a different DNA structure or a different DNA code, I should say.
So yeah, but and they do share DNA too, though, with some of the bacteria and organisms that exist inside our body. We do share some
Mm,
DNA with them. Some use their DNA to get past our systems detectors, right? Our systems ability to detect. That's how any bacteria or any virus will take hold, is to trick your system into thinking it's part of the system. They'll hijack
right.
they'll hijack a cell and pretend to
Hmm.
um, be part of the system, but they're invasive, right? Invasive from outside the system completely. Uh,
Yes.
and that can happen with areas on the surface of the earth too. I mean, it's the same situation, like an organism coming from North America to South America or something along those lines does have an impact on how the superorganism that we all are connected by thrives. I actually did a piece this last Saturday. I don't
Mm.
know why my camera's so laggy. My all Anyway, I did a piece about these electric bacteria that basically are like living wires that live underneath the ocean. It's pretty nifty.
Electric bacteria.
Yes.
So if Gaia is a superorganism and we are um, cells basically in this superorganism, we are composed of this superorganism. Are we like the brain of it? Since we are the most intelligent species, would that make us sort of the brain of Gaia?
The brain of Gaia as humans? No.
Okay,
No, I
so
would say
would
the
go
brain of Gaia would be the mycelial network, or as a whole, an entire structure. We are just basically we are uh, as part of the system. We take nutrients that were dumped into the system, and recycle them back into
mm,
soil to allow thriving of the mycelium and root network of the all that together. So animals in general, that was their, if as a piece of within the system, that is how That is what we're here for. And that's why we thrive within the system. Now, the differences between types of animals competing within the system for one another is why we have evolution, the evolutionary arms race, if you will, for these niches within the system to provide the service of transporting nutrients around the network itself. So we're just the organism that won that race.
Yes, I might. Sorry, I'm just keeping an eye on the chat. I'm sorry, Darth Bunton. I probably haven't explained this hypothesis. We just sort of picked up, didn't we, Brad? We didn't explain it at all. Just straight into it. No explaining at all. Okay, so this is the idea that the planet Earth is a superorganism that is connected by mycelial networks, and that we are part of this larger organism, which kind of we are composed of it, not apart from it, if that makes sense. And do correct me if I'm wrong, Bray, of course, please.
Yeah, no, that's a good outline of it. There's more detail to it than that, but there's because the way that the system functions, it doesn't just send the messages through the mycelial network. And yes, there are breaks in the mycelial network. A lot of those are man-made, and there are other networks of information transfer within the system, aerobic and planktonic, that these signals can also be sent through. So they're chemical reception, and I believe that our presence within the system, and that we are controlled by chemical signals in the system to function as we do. We have separated ourselves from the system as a whole, as a species. It's the domestication process where we take the tools of nature and remove ourselves and our domestic species, both plants, animals, and fungus, also extending it into microbes and bacteria, that we can remove those from the systems and use the tools of evolution based on the way that the cells replicate and the way that the genetics are passed down, that we can manipulate that to form our own species and unique bloodlines of animals and strains of plants that are beneficial for humans but not beneficial for the overall system. So we've kind of hijacked the system like a virus.
Yeah, well, Aaron Colson is asking a really good question, which is, are we humans the cancer of Gaia? Are we a cancer? We've sort of, multiplied out of control and now
it was the arms race to. I mean, there was arms races to fill all the functions of the system itself, right? All creatures were competing for some place in the hierarchy of organisms living and dying and passing on their genes. Animals, again, our job was to transfer nutrients around the system as a whole. That's the niche that we succeeded in as animals. I'm talking all animals, and we all specialize in different directions beyond that, in different ways that we can do that, and that we can help the system in addition to that, like pollination, for instance, or seed dispersal, those kind of things. But humans we got really just too good at it, I guess, is the way to describe it, that we got so good at working within the system that we began to hack the system about 200,000 years ago, with things like controlled fire and things like and those kind of innovations.
Yeah, I guess, that the question is, well, why would the organism sort of, produce such a creature? But, if we are like a cancer, then it's purely accidental kind of thing.
It's just the system working too good at creating animals to perform this function.
Well, here's another suggestion for you. What if this is what we were meant to do? What if Gaia is diverting resources into an organism that it can expel onto another planet and take it over?
So yeah, like if we were part of the cycle we've taken over this planet and sucked it dry, we need to allow our DNA to travel to other worlds. So allow a species to become advanced enough. So the system, allows a species to become advanced enough to populate another planet. That's a interesting idea that I hadn't considered. So I'll have to mull that over and think about it. Thank you for that.
That's okay.
That's a direction I haven't looked into. Because I always feel like the effects that we're having on Gaia is detrimental for the most part, at least since the Industrial Revolution, right? I mean, you could make a case that it started 37,000 years ago or so, something like that, with agriculture.
Well, yeah, but any sort of propagation mechanism is going to be detrimental for the organism, right? Because you can't put resources into something without there being resources taken away from other things. So,
right.
Sort of following that, it might be entirely like under your this is sort of an internal critique under your idea. This Gaia may actually be diverting resources to a collection of cells that is quite, or nearly capable of crossing a space to propagate to another world.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to think about Gaia as a conscious decision-making entity, I don't think that's how it works. I think it works more as a process of natural selection to keep the organism alive.
Not necessarily. I mean, plants they put a lot of energy and resources into creating like spores or sort of sexual transmission.
So, I don't know. That's like a directed evolution, though, to where, because evolution, the way that it works is not like Lamarckianism, where it's a giraffe reaching towards the leaves will produce offspring with longer necks, that kind of thing. That's kind of been vindicated to some extent with epigenetics, but it's, you know what epigenetics is? I've heard you talk about it. Yes, I don't have to explain it to you. But if your audience doesn't know, it's basically that your state and ecology impacts the way you develop and what gene expressions develop in your lineage, right? So.
So why wouldn't epigenetics affect humans?
What's that?
Why wouldn't epigenetics affect humans?
Yeah, I think the epigenetics do affect humans, but I don't think that there are forces in play that are driving us to leave the planet, though. We don't know. Maybe there are, because resources and whatnot. But whether that would be I guess that would be the continuation of Gaia, because we would take at least what we've domesticated from the natural system with us, right? We would take our crops. We'd probably take our domestic livestock. We may even take wild animals.
I also think, we would certainly in the future do some sort of terraforming, which would involve sort of transporting native species or species that can propagate on other planets to another planet, basically, and seeding it. I don't see why we wouldn't do that.
I think we should do that, and that we would do that. I think that that's
so. Yeah,
that's a way to ensure that we leave something behind, right? Even if we don't make it.
Well, I mean, what's making it in this sense? It's sort of there's no sort of end goal for this. Humans will go as far as they can, essentially.
Yeah. When I say make it, I mean the DNA that is linked back to us directly. If we can't preserve that like the sustained directive evolution to our direct descendants, I would at least like to see us be able to preserve the direct descendants of some species within our lineage, whether it's just plants and fungi, or if we can preserve some select animal groups and things like that. So even if humans don't get our genetics passed on, we can pass on some genetic information from Earth via whether it's plant seed stores. I think there's a giant vault, and somebody in the side chat probably knows where.
Yeah, it's in Greenland, I think, from memory. Yeah,
it's supposed to have seeds of every known plant or whatever.
Yes, yep, absolutely.
And being able to preserve that and pass that along is important. And even if humans don't pass along our genetics directly, to be able to pass them on in that capacity, to pass on the genes of Luca, or even something.
That's the last universal common
Yes.
ancestor, just for the chat.
Yes.
So, yeah, I say it's because in my mind, there's no out for humans or life in general. We kind of have to go to another planet, or we're just sitting around waiting to die, essentially. That the universe is sort of so hostile that we don't really have an option. It's onwards and upwards, or just nothing.
Yeah, and I don't. The way that the issue I have, and the reason I don't know if I would sign off on the fact that Gaia would give an organism that drive specifically, and is because I don't know how far the reaches of what we would consider as part of Gaia go up into the atmosphere. The highest living organism, as far as I'm aware, I think there was like a species of vulture that was hit by a plane at 37,000 feet. Now that's a lone vulture, right? I don't know. They would take samples of.
Yeah, but they can't really live there. It's sort of traveling.
Well, vultures, birds that soar do soar. I mean, they rest up there too. They are able to just kind of relax there.
Glide, yeah.
I just live on so they do stay up there and spend more time. It's not, they're not burning energy staying up there, so they can stay up there for quite a bit. So they don't generally fly that high, though. That's not like a normal thing. But even taking samples at that height, of microorganisms and things, we get to a certain height and there's a limit to how far organisms have evolved in order to take advantage of that atmospheric ecological niche, and we just don't see that it's extended, that there seems to be some kind of biological barriers to the conditions the conditions that nobody's overcome yet. So I don't know if within the system itself and what it's trying, and it's striving to self-sustain. I say striving loosely, just natural selection taking place, but to sustain life would see would be able to find a benefit in sporing out into the cosmos. I'm not saying it couldn't, but I just don't see with that barrier in place that there's an unknown variable beyond it that we can accommodate for, that biologically that we can't adapt to because we can't get past that barrier, right?
Well, the whole point is that if you're considering the superorganism of Gaia an organism, then one of the things is replication or reproduction, basically, would have to factor into it to be a living thing.
Yeah, it could be like the immortal jellyfish, right? Self-propagating.
Well, that's true.
That goes through biological cycles of its own accord.
But don't they still reproduce? Don't they split off? I'm struggling to remember.
Spore.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they have a zooid or zoid state that they enter where they can replicate and they bud off of each other, and they can reproduce that way, but it's fused into clones.
Right. So how would Gaia reproduce if it is in fact an organism? If sort of because one of the to be an organism, you've got to reproduce. So how would it do so?
Oh gosh, this will lead into the idea like panspermia and things like that too, because who's to say at that point of life developing that whether abiogenesis actually happened here, right? Of course, we can infer that just based on Occam's razor. It's more likely that it developed here because we've been assuming that there's life on other planets as well at this point.
Yes, yeah.
However, the notion that sorry, I gotta clear my throat. Give me just a second.
Yeah, no worries, Bree. No, I don't subscribe to this, but I find it fascinating. It really is interesting. It's just
I'm not a proponent of panspermia either. Or
no. I mean Gaiaism. I'm not sure what you're calling it. Is it Gaiaism?
I've been
Gaiaism?
calling it Gaianism, but
Gaianism. Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah. No. I don't think I'm there yet, but it definitely is fascinating.
Yeah, I'm
So
definitely not trying to get anybody there. I'm just telling this is my interpretation of
that's fine.
my
Yeah,
interactions with
this is what I love about the atheist community. You talk to all different people; they've got all different ideas. It's fantastic. I mean, I think that what my position is would probably you would find pretty horrible, to be honest with you. I think that if there is because we know that the earth will eventually end, it's gonna die, and if we had to use all of our resources to get off of it to somewhere else, I would probably advocate for that. I think that traveling space and propagating another planet is the best thing we can do, even at the cost of I guess I wouldn't sacrifice everything for it, but I think it's a necessary thing that we've got to do.
yeah. What we're talking about, like seeding the universe. I
Yeah,
don't know.
basically.
I don't know. The struggle is to be able to have the technology. If we have the technology to say terraform Mars, right? We have that
Right.
technology, and we're able to do that. I'm not saying we do. I'm saying say that we do. We would need to have the technology to terraform and restore Earth, because it'd be a lot easier to restore the ecology that's already pre-existing than it is to try to create a brand new one on a foreign planet, right?
Sure, but then you've sort of the whole problem is you've got all your eggs in one basket. When and not really if, but when a existential threat actually happens, like an asteroid or something that is planet destroying, and we know this can happen. Do you then have all life wiped out in one shot? At least if you've got two planets with life on them, you're not wiped out in one shot.
Right. Yeah, and that's population dynamics in general. It's the organisms that are able to do
Sure.
that pass on their genes. So
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. Having resources that are limited to the planet that we're on, though, is a bit of an issue there for most
Oh,
organisms,
absolutely.
right? But the I guess the point I was making is, if we're trying to escape this planet because this planet's dying, then having the resources to terraform another planet would
Yeah,
be
catastrophic. Yeah, no, I get you. I wouldn't.
it would have to be something that's going to destroy the Earth, because we have the technology to terraform a new planet. We have the technology to restore Earth to its to a primeval state.
I would advocate very heavily for sustainability and ecological management,
Mm-hmm.
simply because we're nowhere near terraforming another planet. Like, it's just, and you've still got the same problem if you sacrifice this planet to be on another one. Um, you're basically in the same boat. You've still only got one planet, right? So if the
Right.
asteroid hits that one, you're in exactly the same boat. So I wouldn't advocate for that, but I really strongly support that push to get to colonize, essentially. And I know that's a bit of a dirty word, but to colonize another planet. I think um, that is the best thing we can do for our species and for life in general. Because if a big enough impact happens, it could feasibly destroy all life. Like, if it cracks the crust, and there's sort of, I mean, it's unlikely, but it could feasibly destroy all life if we get hit by something.
Right. There are forces that are out there in the universe that could
Right,
destroy everything on Earth, or at least put there's things that could destroy everything, but like bring us back to tardigrades, and everything that evolves forward from there would be a tardigrade.
right, which wouldn't be too bad. Now that you mention it, but everybody loves tardigrades. Come
Yeah,
on,
I want to live in
they're amazing.
tardigrade world.
Yeah. Yeah, I see. I don't see the planet in danger from humans. It's just not. Like even the idea of Gaia is in danger from humans. It's not. Like humans, even if we did the worst things to the environment, like the very, very worst kind
There's
of stuff,
things that will survive. Yeah.
right, and it will recover. It will find that equilibrium again. Like when plants took over the earth and suddenly they produced all of this, oxygen into the
much
atmosphere and
oxygen.
stuff.
The carboniferous rainforest collapse.
Mhm.
Yes, that is actually built into my hypothesis. So absolutely.
Darth Bonson sort of asked, this line of thought can also run backward. At one time, the Earth didn't exist, yet the Earth is here. So this would be more like a living universe, right? I could be wrong.
Can you unwrap that for me?
So a lot of people, and I'm not saying you're doing this, Darth Bonson, definitely not. But some people have looked at the sort of nebula and things and gone, oh, well, it looks like a brain, sort of neural network kind of thing. Could the universe, or could galaxies be synapses in a big brain of the universe kind of stuff? Which I mean, it's an interesting thought. It's sort of like, well, what if we're part of, we're just a tiny part of something, a massive brain?
And let me clarify, the one thing we do know is that mycelia is definitely a biological neural system. I'm not speculating on that. That's not like, oh, my interpretation is that mycelia is sending out electronic and chemical messages throughout a massive system. That's demonstrated. Now, as far as it being all part of the same organism, or as a superorganism, I think that the ability to pass information directly into or directly to all the other organisms within the system makes you part of that system. I think that the fact that we can receive signals and information from the system to respond biologically is evident that we are a piece of this greater system that is a giant organism that, just to be clear to everybody out there, is not the Greek goddess Gaia, but just a superorganism named Gaia after the Greek goddess Gaia. I just have to stress that. People thinking I'm presenting this as a new age argument or anything like that. I do find it romantic that the energy and nutrients that are in my body will return back into the system and create new pieces of it. That does give me a little bit of peace, and maybe that's why I want this to be. See, that's why I say I'm aware of my biases. Right, this doesn't affect anything regarding my understanding of biology and evolution, other than that I think that the system itself could be considered a superorganism.
Okay. Big Man Mama is asking, do you know how much colonization of Mars would cost? Probably so much, like ridiculous amount.
Money's made up, though.
Just quadrillions. Well, really, so money, I kind of see it as a marker for resources kind of thing. So basically, to me, he's asking, do you know how much resources it would take to colonize Mars kind of thing in these arbitrary monetary units? I get what you're saying, though. It would take so much resources, probably, the entire world's cooperative effort in order to do that. So that's why I say we're not there yet. Because as technology gets better, the cost and the efficiency of resources always comes down. So I'm not suggesting we're there. And I just want to address something Maya's saying, because it's a really good point. She says we must save the planet from ourselves. So I get what you're saying, kind of thing. We've got this planet. Sorry?
About the money or about resources?
No. No, I think that the planet's going to be fine. It's that we've got to not waste the progress that we've managed to make, right? Because if
I
we
think that we can be volatile enough to kill Gaia. I think that the human race does have that ability. If a massive nuclear war could wipe out all life.
I don't think it would wipe out all life because there is a bacteria that lives on the sides of nuclear reactors, and it's DNA. It's fascinating bacteria. Well, it gets bombarded by radiation, which breaks up the DNA like everything else, and it kind of just scuttles its DNA back together. It's crazy.
Tim,
It's really
I don't think that
fascinating.
Mark's saying we're not going to Mars. We're talking about colonizing Mars. That's a whole different topic. We are going to Mars. That's in the cards. That's already planned. We're probably going to build a station on Mars too within my lifetime. But as far as colonizing Mars, I don't think that that's going to happen within my lifetime. I could be wrong, though. I'd be happy to be wrong. It'd be super cool. I'd like to spend my golden years on Mars.
I'll pop this in the live chat because I feel like showing everybody this insane thing, and I'll pop it in private chat to you as well.
Is this the radioactive bacteria?
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's have a look here. Dinococcus radiodurans. Extremophilic bacteria. I love that term, extremophilic.
Extremophilic, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm trying to break down the name here. Dino, like Deinonychus.
Deinonychus radiodurans.
Yeah, Dinococcus.
Apparently, it's been genetically modified for biomedical applications.
The terrible berry is what it means.
The what?
The terrible berry. Because if you look at the image of it,
terrible berry.
It's berry shaped. There could be terrible grain or berry.
Scientists and their naming. I love it when scientists make the most ridiculous names for things. It's just hilarious.
Did you see the filament article I sent you about the filamentous cable bacteria?
No, I don't think so. Did you send that to me? Was it on
Discord? I did.
No,
I don't see it. Here. And I'll drop that in the side chat too. This is these guys they live mostly in tidal waters. They've been found. They're finding them everywhere now, but they're these tiny bacteria that look like a little thread that's thinner than human hair, but they're really long, sometimes up to like a couple of centimeters, from what I understand. They poke up out of the sediment on the bottom of the ocean, and they suck the sulfur that settled down into the sediment out and exchange electrons with the oxygen in the water up above, keep the water from being depleted of oxygen by the sulfur. It keeps the sulfur from spreading to the surface by bonding with the oxygen and causing rust in the iron that's in the water. But they're electric. They're basically little tiny wires serving this function. They are looking into using these to control oil spills and things like that as well. Keep the oxygen, because the bacteria that eat oil, they only last for so long because they release toxins into the water that cause them to die out. So they're not sustainable as a way to fight oil spills. But if we use these filamentous bacteria to provide them with direct oxygen, we could change that. We could make it so that they're more they survive longer and can consume more of the oil that's settled into the sediment. Pretty cool stuff, right?
Yeah. So they're basically using bacterial nanowires to transmit electrons as many body lengths away from cells.
And the uses that they're proposing for these, there's a lot of agricultural use for them. Rice paddies produce more carbon than any other type of crop, because the flooding, the way that they flood the fields, allows certain algae to grow that produce carbon into the atmosphere. But if we are able to capture it with this layer that these filament bacteria create, it'll reduce the carbon release by up to 93%.
Oh, that is
So,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
That's some of the
So how would us genetically modifying so how would that fit into your Gaia model? We basically get these parts of the superorganism, we genetically modify them for our personal use, and then implement them in a way that serves us. How would that fit into your model?
It doesn't. That's why I
Okay.
say that we hijacked the tools, the natural tools of genetics that were already there. The way that life was already naturally adapting and changing to ecological pressures. We hijacked that system by discovering that we could apply our own artificial pressures to produce results that are to our liking. So we hacked the system like a virus and started using it to produce our own versions of what we wanted from the creations that it had naturally produced.
Well, I don't think that evolution has any sort of purpose or any goal, even to preserve its own existence, kind of thing.
Yeah, the
I don't.
populations within that group have a driving force to reproduce, though. It's a natural. I mean,
Sure.
yeah, that's the when I say want to, when I give that that characteristic, that's what I'm referring to. The organisms within the populations, not Gaia itself, but the parts of it that are propagated. Only the ones that propagate and have the drive to propagate are present, right? Anything that didn't have that drive is lost to time.
Well, I think that sort of humans still fit within evolution. I still think we still occupied that niche kind of thing. It's just that our specialization has been sort of wildly effective.
Well,
Um,
we fabricate our own ecosystem, though, so it's not natural
right.
selection. We're not in a natural environment. We're in an artificial environment.
Well, well, to a degree, yes, but natural selection is still going to, and mutation and natural selection is still going to happen. And I'll explain why. It's because when you interrupt the process, like with medicine, because there's medicines that will now sort of prevent somebody of dying of a certain disease, and they will be able
Right.
to reproduce. So therefore, these mutations are building up, basically, and that's been demonstrated in a few papers.
Yeah,
I could
that's what they
certainly,
call genetic entropy in the young Earth creationist
yeah, but it's
world.
not, because it's still just evolution. It just means that if you provide a mechanism for things not to be eliminated from the gene pool, things that should eliminate them are going to start to pile up. So the question is, how do we get ourselves out of this genetic rut? And there's a few different sort of thoughts that people have, but that selection process is gonna, if we don't do anything, it's gonna kick back in, and hard, because we're still subject to the same evolutionary forces that we always have been. It's just that we've sort of put a sort of a finger in the dam, right? We've sort of blocked part of the mechanism, but
Well,
that's going to explode, or sort of come unstuck at some point. You can't block it forever.
but we're at a point in time where we are at a shift where that's gonna be different. We're at a place where now we can create completely synthetic organisms, right? We're starting to create and fabricate organisms.
Right.
There's creatures that are trademarked that have
Yeah.
that,
So that, yeah,
we're
sorry,
gonna
Brett, go
get
ahead.
we're getting to a point where where it is no longer gonna be, oh yeah, we're still within the pressures of the system. We are going to get to a point where we start removing certain things from the from the gene
direct
pool.
genetic manipulation. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and we're going to start adding things to the gene pool to make us more resistant to viruses and things like that.
Sure, yeah.
And we're going to, and soon, I believe we'll start seeing more and more of that within our lifetimes of children being born with that are having their genetics manipulated in utero to make them resistant to bacteria or to viruses and things like that. There's going to be genetic manipulation. There's already these things in the works, right? So at some point in time, not long after mine and your lifetime, this might be a planet populated by synthetic humans that are not biologically driven to be controlled by ecological pressures, but completely fabricated genetics.
Yes, so I don't see a problem with that. I'm actually all for that. That's something that I'm
better for us as a species, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's better for humans. It may be worse for the rest of the world or the ecosystem. But that remains to be seen, because
the other organisms are going to get hammered with this long before that comes down to humans too. So the world that we got that these synthetic humans are going to be living in is going to be already loaded down with synthetic organisms. We already have
right
genetically. That's what this GMO backlash is about creating clades of organisms with specially selected genetic traits with custom built genomes. We're already doing that with livestock now. So this is what do they say, transhumanism, where you're sculpting what you want a human to be moving forward. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with it necessarily. I think that we've got to be careful to preserve the ecosystem that we sort of rely upon. Mm-hmm. But I don't see why. And don't get me wrong, certain things about GMOs absolutely horrify me. That the whole idea of Terminator seeds is repugnant to me. It's awful. A Terminator seed is one that the farmer buys from, Monsanto or something. They plant it once and it will produce one crop and kill itself, basically. It won't produce any more seeds. So they have to keep buying it from the company. That's kind of horrifying, because you're basically making a suicide gene within an organism for food. It's not a good idea. But I don't see why we cannot apply that same level of genetics and biology towards the natural world to preserve it, basically. And I realize that you're sort of saying, well, you're not preserving the natural world, you're preserving a version, a sort of a simulacrum of that, presumably.
Anthropocentric.
You know what? I think I am
anthropocentric. Yeah.
Anthropocentric. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. Yes.
Yeah, most people are.
Yeah, well, that's only because I am a human.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason and only justification I feel like I need, because we all prioritize people closer to our genetic makeup than further down the line.
Oh, we're getting spicy here. Let's explore this.
Well, I mean, presumably you would as well, because we had a conversation about this, and you said you would save a person from a burning building rather than a cat.
Yeah, but there's when it comes to what was said, and if I misunderstood you, clarify for me, okay? Because I don't want to mischaracterize what you said.
Sure.
So you said I would save people closer to my genetic, or organisms closer to my genetic group than further from your genetic
further
group,
right? Yeah.
Okay, so as we look into your genetic group, right, we can break that down to all the way to your haplogroup of your ancestors, right? So do you favor people in your own haplogroup over other haplogroups? So that's
I think I favor my family over people I don't know. But I think that all haplogroups of people I don't know are sort of in one. I don't see a lot of difference between them.
Well, genetically speaking, though, because you said that that people that are genetically closer to you, so the people from your genetic ancestry, wherever your ancestors were from initially.
Well, I suppose it would go in a series of sort of groupings. Sort of, so my close family would be the most important to me, and myself, of course. People are always, I think you need to.
Selfish monkeys, right? Of course.
Well, you need to be good to yourself to be helpful to anybody or society. You have to at least prioritize yourself in a way, because that's the nature of life. But my close family is more important to me, and then I guess there's a ring around that. Whereas my extended family, like I'm going to care more about my wife and my mother and father, or my brother, than I will about a second cousin twice removed kind of thing. And then outside of that, it's sort of just people, strangers in general, just humans.
Yeah, I think we did. We graded it back, didn't we? When we were talking, was it
I
yesterday?
think so. Yeah, this sounds familiar, but was it yesterday we were talking? You're joking, right? It wasn't yesterday.
Or was it yesterday? I don't know. Sometimes
time's blurring together. Oh my.
Yeah, just for me, I've been off work since Wednesday, so it's just been a big long 1 day blur with turkey dinners and naps in between.
Oh, of course. Have I wished you a happy Thanksgiving? If I haven't, I'm so sorry. Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, I stuffed myself yesterday and Thursday.
Yeah, but so okay, so maybe I've got the wrong expression saying sort of my genetic
so genetic is it your line. Species?
Well, here's the problem. Right? The problem with that, now that you've said that, is that I might like a cat more than people, right?
Let's use the burning building, right? Though there's
okay.
There's some old lady that you hate in one building, in your favorite pet in the other room. Which room do you go in and save first?
I think I'd save the human.
Yeah. Even though you didn't like the individual because they're a human,
right? And
okay, here's where it gets weird. Are you ready to take this down a weird idea? You're gonna have to think outside of the box a little bit on this. Okay, so
hey, I'm here for it. Yep.
All right, so a old woman or a Neanderthal child.
An old woman or a Neanderthal child. I don't know in that case. I don't know. I would probably go with the one that is easiest to save. I don't know. I mean, I've never met a Neanderthal to kind of make that distinction over whether I would care that much for them, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, let's explore what they are. Are they people to you? Would they be
Neanderthals? Yeah. I mean, but some cats are people to me, so I don't know. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I think
I like to walk morality back like this. It's
I think I would put them on even footing. So I would probably save the child simply as a utilitarian process. Like if all things were equal kind of thing, I would probably save a young child, because there is that potentiality to sort of, do things further on in their life.
Yeah, whereas an older person wouldn't have that opportunity, right?
Right. It depends on how close she is to death. I mean, if she's hacking out her last while the fire's closing in, I might not bother. That's a joke, by the way. That's 100% a joke. Please don't clip that. That's a joke.
I'm going to ask the harder question next. You know what's coming, right?
Yeah, come on, bring it on.
So the next options we're looking at are the human child or the Neanderthal child. Who comes first?
Human child.
Human child.
Probably, yeah. Human child. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, that tells me where the distinction is for you. It's at the species level. I'm sure, but like a Neanderthal child before a Australopithecine or something like that, right?
Right. And so if you got an old world monkey or whatever, yeah, we've got a clear designation of you save the human child, right? Sort of. So,
Yes.
um, um, yeah, I definitely would prioritize the human child over a Australopithecine child, but but when we make these moral priorities, it's not like we're saying, hey, I would save the human child and not care about the Neanderthal child. Of course you would care, kind of thing, right?
Oh yeah. But it's like a dog too. You'd care about the dog, but you'd save the human child, right?
Right, absolutely. I'd absolutely care about my favorite cat. Like that would be something I would probably be absolutely devastated, but I think human life is prioritized as much as, the cat lovers will hate me. Yep, Aaron, I got
Yeah.
saving the cat. I got you, buddy. I hear you. I'm a humanist. I prioritize humans, and
What
that's
about
what I prioritize.
what about a Neanderthal cat though?
Do you mean a Neanderthal who is also a cat, or do you mean a Neanderthal owns a cat and it is the cat in danger? We got to clarify here.
I don't think Neanderthals had cats. Yeah, I don't know what the equivalent of a Neanderthal cat would be. I guess it'd be like a wild cat, maybe. No, I don't know. I didn't expect follow up or clarifying questions when I said that.
You should know me well enough by now, Bray. I've always got clarifying questions. Look, if it was a Neanderthal furry, then maybe yes. If it was a Neanderthal's cat, like a African wild cat, I probably wouldn't give a shit, to be honest. But like, I'd probably get clawed my eyes out trying to rescue it. There's no way. And this is the thing, like we talk about, and this is what gets me about the sort of people that argue morality from biology kind of thing, from genetics. So that's all well and good, and we can sort of say, hey, our genetics, our biology makes us cooperate and
Your
work together.
tolerances, right?
Right. But then you've got these instances of have you heard the phrase saving the cat?
You're gonna have to know. I don't.
So it's basically a phrase that's used in movies or writing where you want to get the hero as endearing as possible very, very quickly. So basically you get them to save a cat, do something noble. And we see saving a cat, like if a fireman rushes into a building, rescues a kitten, and then performs CPR, they're morally fantastic. They're a moral hero, right? So
Right.
if our simple biology governs what is moral and what is not, why is that a moral action? Why is that not immoral? Because that sort of biologically does nothing for the fireman, right? He's risking his life for something that isn't even his own species. So that's my main argument of why morality has to be something more than objectively biologically driven. It has to be a societal construct. And I think with people that will rescue a cat, I've got nothing against it. Fair enough. I don't expect everybody to believe the same things I do. People that rescue a cat, they've sort of adopted that cat as, this is part of my close family, right? This isn't just an animal. This is part of my close kin.
The fireman recognizes it as part of somebody else's close family.
Right. Which is it's a social construct. It can't be anything objective. It simply is a construct that people have made for the pets that they've adopted, being part of their close-knit family. You can adopt a human and they're your kin. You'll have the same feelings for them. It's not unusual.
Well, it's not unique to humans either. Like if you raise a llama with a flock of sheep, they will live with those sheep and protect those sheep like they're their own herd. That's
Yeah,
why
same with
llamas make great guards for sheep.
same with donkeys, strangely enough. And donkeys will like kick the crap out of anybody that screws with the herd for some reason. And they're very, very terrifying. Like they're actually very good protectors, strangely enough.
Yeah. Camels,
Yeah,
camels in the same kind of the same direction. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that I just think that as I just I can't make any logical rational argument for why I prioritize humans apart from that I'm human.
yeah.
That's the only thing I can do.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
your bias, right? I'm a member of this
Yeah.
species, so I favor this species. But I
Yes.
just there was something recent that came out on the news in Texas. There was this teacher that was trying to explain to these students that he favored his own race and thought his own race was superior, and he believed that
Hmm.
everybody should think that way. And I'm like, oh my goodness, seeing
Yeah.
this news clip of this guy saying this to students, to junior high students, a white teacher saying this to black students.
Oof.
And
Oof.
it comes down to, there's a place that we can draw a line with who means the most to us, right? But
Right.
to say, that's why I wanted to poke at that genetics that you mentioned, because I think that beyond being the same species, I don't think that it's too hard to decipher. It's that from that point, it's personal relationships that matter, right? I mean, a strange child of any ethnicity is going to take priority over an elderly person of any ethnicity. It's not.
Well, I think we all construct our hierarchies of sort of importance to us, and sort of so. I think you're absolutely right. I think that my idea, first of all, that it was genetic isn't correct, because you're absolutely right. There's people that I prioritize over strangers that I'm probably more genetically similar to, right?
Right.
So, I've got a couple of
There's
friends
animals
that.
that you'd prioritize over people that you're like a strange monkey or a strange ape to your own cat. It's not even to me, that wouldn't even be a choice. If there's a strange chimpanzee or my dog, I want to pick my dog.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. You're 100% right. No, I get what you're saying. I guess, yeah. Um, so why am I prioritizing the genetics of humans over everything else is the question. Um, Apart from the fact that I am human, so I'm giving them a special priority because I would like that special priority myself. So I think I'm falling back on reciprocity here.
Yeah.
That um, because because I am human, I would like to be extended the rights and be looked favorably upon by other humans because I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing the same thing for them. So I guess it's sort of that idea that we have to live like the world we want.
Yeah, I think that you could even extend that to the fireman rescuing the cat. That's not because he cares about that cat. It's because he
Right.
has that maybe if he had a pet that he cared about, he'd want the fireman to try to rescue it.
Right. Yeah. So I think that works, and sort of so. Really, what I'm sort of saying is that you sort of have this sort of hierarchy of these close, medium, complete strangers, and you do prioritize that. So when it comes to sort of animals out in the wild, I care. I mean, I care a lot because they're integral to our own survival. But I think that I don't know. I kind of think that we've sort of got to prioritize our own survival and our own flourishing.
Well,
Um,
what if your species flourishing is detrimental to the rest of the species on the planet, though? That's
yeah, well, see, so as far as human, I don't think we're sort of peak evolution or what life was aiming for, kind of thing. I think that we are just a type of organism that has come up with certain specialities that so I think that humans will either make it or they won't, right? That they're either going to spread out throughout the galaxy or to other stars if we can, or not, and we will just die out and life will just continue on. I don't think there's any special place for us or divine right for us or anything like that. And if we can't make it, if we can't survive, then we don't deserve to, right? So if we just go extinct, and that was what should have happened to us, or what ought to have happened to us. I think that with evolution, it will throw up all kinds of things with different specializations, just at almost at random. I know it's deterministic what survives, but it will throw up things at random. And if we can't survive, then
we just call it pressures when we're talking about evolution, right? Or ecology, ecological pressures. Even a meteor hitting the Earth, ecological pressure.
Right.
Right.
But ecological pressure is also the pressure of being able to propagate, basically, and that includes off the Earth, as far as I'm concerned. So if we can't do that and basically wait till we peter out or whatever, I think that it is fitting that we do so, because I think that evolution, if it's not going to be humans to take that leap off the Earth, life will throw up something else. Basically, it will just evolve again. Something like humans will come up. Maybe they'll work a bit better together. Maybe they'll be a bit smarter, and it will happen. I'm not saying that necessarily that will be humans to be the ones that do it. But in that case, we will peter out, and it basically is I mean,
so you don't think that we're sustainable here? Like, if
no.
we don't explore if we don't expand into the galaxy,
yeah,
we're going to go extinct on this planet.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think humans can live on this planet and live in a sort of, harmony forever kind of thing. I don't think that can happen. Sooner or later, something will happen. Super volcano, asteroid impact. Like in 2019, I'm not sure I told you about this. There's an asteroid called OK 2019. If that hit us, it would have ended the human race, and it came so close. Like, it came in between the moon and us. Like, that is like a bullet brushing your sleeve. That is like a bullet grazing your skin on a sort of, galactic scale. That is so close, and it would have wiped all of us out, no question about it. So I think that sort of living in harmony is all well and good, but the universe isn't living in harmony with us. The universe is out to kill us. Well, I mean, it's not out to kill us, but you get what I mean. Like, it is so insanely hostile.
The life is not adapted to evolve anywhere beyond that barrier that I was talking about. That's where I can't get past when you're talking about because we had to remove ourselves from the system and start working with, because the processes like mining ores and things like that are very new, very, very new. From the time that happened to now, that's a blip of time on the.
But who says when we can't evolve to move beyond that barrier? I mean, if we evolve, we possibly could. We have moved beyond the barrier. I mean, briefly.
I guess I think that we've removed ourselves from the natural system, though. I don't think that there's the resources within the natural system to move beyond that barrier. I think it had to be artificial. It had to be something that we used our brains to fabricate that didn't come from natural sources in order to move beyond that barrier. I don't think it ever would have happened like biologically. I don't think we ever would have had organisms firing spores into space to colonize other planets or things, anything like that.
Unless we're Gaia firing spores into space.
Yeah. When you
Yeah.
say it's firing spores into space, you're talking about our machines, though, right? Carrying our
Oh,
people.
Sure.
Yeah, and I guess, and that's the place that I guess I'm disagreeing there is that I don't consider us as functioning within Gaia anymore. At least not since the Industrial Revolution. Maybe way before that, actually, but maybe the Agricultural Revolution would be a better place to draw the line. It's hard to say. It's like a graded removal where we slowly over generations removed ourselves from the natural system. And there are still pressures from the natural systems we deal with, and sometimes people forget about that, and we have something like COVID come along to remind us that we are still susceptible to natural pressures. But we can vacuum seal ourselves off from natural pressures completely if we so choose.
Yeah.
I mean, beyond our own biology, but we're getting to a point where we can alter our own biology too.
But that's one of the things that sort of I wanna touch on, and it's good that you brought it up, that it is feasible that a bacteria does wipe us out. Like it isn't on the realm of unknown. It isn't something that could possibly never happen.
It's a probability, yeah. It's an
Well,
inevitability at some point that we're going to have
right.
viruses evolve to, yeah. Anyway,
And I mean, if you're talking about sort of living in harmony with Earth kind of thing, there's always going to evolution will kick up things to challenge us. Always, it's always going to happen. I don't sort of so the idea of living in harmony, like animals don't even live in
no, there's
harmony.
no
They just
harmony.
try
The
and
system
survive.
grows and evolves, right?
Right. They're just desperately trying to survive. The threats that we have now, apart from ourselves, which I will totally acknowledge that probably our greatest threat is our own damn selves, is things like the planet killer asteroids, and is things like the bacterias or viruses that could wipe us out. Not that it'll kill all life. I get that, but
Wipe out the human species or
the human species. And so the thing that I see that I sort of really believe is that sort of sitting and being sort of one with nature is all well and good, but that's sort of a death sentence for our species. And I think that I would rather see us sort of go to another, sort of have a backup there in case. And so that's why I sort of really promote the idea of space travel and science. And I mean we haven't been here very long. It's only been like since the advent of science. It's only been a few hundred years kind of thing. We're so young.
definitely, yeah. We're like where we could go and how long we've been doing this stuff. Like I said, even mining ores it's not even
Right.
a spike on the geological scale of how long life has been reproducing and honing
Right.
to the state that we're in now, where there's this there is a balance that's struck, but it's delicate and it deplores a vacuum. So
Well, I kind of see us as sort of babies kind of thing. We're so young, we're just knocking crap over left, right, and center, trying to, stagger around kind of thing. Sorry, go ahead, Brie.
oh no, I was actually about to ask if you wanted to open things up and see if some of these
sure.
Some of these people out here in the side chat want to pop in. I see
only
Richard and Leo and
hour and a half, but I can certainly invite people in. I'll do an open segment for about half an hour or so, I guess, until 12. I will grab a lot.
I'm definitely with you about fixing the planet, Tim.
Yeah, no, I get you, Tim, and I'm all for fixing this planet, but I do think that can't be the end goal. I think that we've got to fix the planet to preserve us while we try to get off of it. And that's not to say we abandon all fixing the planet. It's just you know, um,
I was gonna say
I
the
think
same
that's just what
driving
I'd like to
forces
make.
that make humans colonize any new area, right? The need for resources and
Sure, yeah.
yeah, right. Limited space on what's land is available and
Because
capitalism.
and Tim, I just want to sort of make clear that if we don't fix the planet, we will not make it to another sort of colonization before we kill ourselves. Like we do have to do that first. Like I'm not arguing with that. Climate change is an existential threat for humans. It's probably our biggest one right now. Yeah, Megan, overpopulation is a major crisis. Although when you say overpopulation and people go, oh well, we could fit all of us, sort of in this state or whatever, it's like, yeah, we don't mean the physical space, we mean the drain on resources.
Yeah,
So
how much food and resources
I
everybody
couldn't
needs.
believe that. I think it was on a who's that guy? I can't remember his name, but he's a commentator. He's sort of like, oh, we could fit the entire human
Was it
population
Steven
in.
Crowder? I remember
I
him
think it
saying
was
that.
might have been him. He said we could fit the entire population in Arkansas or something. So, standing shoulder to shoulder. So how could it possibly be overpopulated? It's like, you idiot. Like, we're talking about the resources people need, not the physical space they take up. Yes, you could put everybody, you could fit half the population of the world on the Isle of Manhattan or whatever, but that's not what we're talking about here, right? We're talking that each person needs a certain amount of resources to. It's just, I don't understand that.
Right. We all need a certain level of space to exist in, and
Yeah.
and then also the looking at the whole surface of the planet is misgiving as to what areas of that planet that we can actually exist in. There's
Mm-hmm.
a nice belt around the middle that
Oh, Maya's got a fantastic question. Does anyone really think we'll colonize another planet in anyone's lifetime? Um, I think you mean like our lifetime, basically, because yeah, anyone's lifetime is a
like
bit.
someone born. Let's give it to the lifetime of someone born this year in
This
2021. So
year.
their lifetime would extend. Let's give them a 80-year lifespan. So about the year 2100. So
2100. Yeah.
um,
I think we'll be. I think that if Mars can be colonized, which isn't a certainty yet, um, I think that we'll be putting down a colony. I don't think we'll have colonized, like, terraformed or anything like that. I think we kind of will be setting up stuff.
I think that we might have a situation on Mars like what we have with the ISS now by that time, where we have research teams that spend months or maybe years at a time on Mars doing
Mm.
experiments and that sort of stuff on the red planet. But I don't think that we'll have
You
what
don't think
you
we'll have a permanent
would have
population?
a proper colony. I think it'd just be research teams doing temporary settlements.
I think we'll have a permanent population there. I think that they'll still be in the process of setting up, but I think they'll try to put a permanent population there. It is similar enough that if they're provided with things, I
Yeah,
mean,
if you have the proper atmospheric conditions, like the gravity and stuff, is going to be pretty close to what you're used to.
right, right. I mean, that's not to say they're going to change the atmosphere, because there's a huge amount of carbon dioxide there and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I think they will have a permanent, sort of population, even if that's just a scientific outpost that
You think there'll
people
be
have
like
stationed
vacuum
permanently.
cities and stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the Martian domes. I mean, obviously, eco domes have been a tremendous failure when we've experimented with them in the past. But if you're talking 80 years from now, I I believe that technology is going to be sufficiently advanced that we can do biodomes at that point.
I don't understand, like when we're talking about Mars, for instance, why we need open exposure to the surface, why we need glass windows or domes or anything like that. I don't know why it has to be set up that way.
Well, I mean, it doesn't. That's the whole point. I guess I'm just using a sort of colloquial popular parlance for the sort of, you know, habitable
Not
thing
saying
on
they
there.
couldn't have domes and windows and things like that. I just like to think that
Yeah.
the failure of biodomes and that sort of idea about terraforming is that they are using natural light, I guess, to try
Yes,
to
that's the idea. They
yeah,
basically can let light in so things can grow, essentially. But I mean,
right.
there's no problem with sort of setting up efficient solar panels and things like that.
Yeah,
Just
like
using
instead of
UV
having it
light
open, having solar panels on the outside, then having
right.
uh proper like lighting inside, like a greenhouse room with lighting in the ceiling for things to grow in, for crops to
Mhm.
grow in. You could even have something the size of a football field where you have proper lighting above it, and that you could keep crops coming. It's, of course, we could do that here on Earth too. I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, and you know, and I do want to make clear that every single, you know, sort of biodome experiment has failed catastrophically. It's been a complete disaster, but um, you know, 80 years is a long time. I mean, 80 years ago, we didn't even have mobile phones, much less, you know, smartphones. That's only been over the last 10, 15 years kind of thing. I just think that technology will accelerate more than you think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can concede that it's hard to, but it's also we seem to be, and maybe you're not, but I am at least. Uh, and I noticed the trend that we seem to be terrible at predicting uh, future technology and what direction it'll take. You know, like
Oh, sure, yeah.
maybe look at the way that that we communicate
Tim,
now. This is not the way that if you'd even asked me 15 years ago that I thought we'd be
yeah.
communicating.
Well, you
Um,
see those pictures from like the sort of 1890s and stuff, or 1900s, of how they thought the future would be, kind of thing. And it's people with, you know, wings flying around, and you know, these sort of steam stuff happening. It's actually
yeah,
hilarious what they thought the future would be
and
like.
I like the 50s sci-fi stuff like Star Trek, the kind of ideas that they had
Yeah.
for our generation. Not Star Trek specifically, but just that kind of what they call Z
Mm.
Rust, that the 50s World of Tomorrow presentation, Jetsons and things like that.
Yeah. And they had robots for everybody and stuff. Where's my
Mhm.
robot? Where's my damn robot?
I had
Where's my hoverboard? You know, yeah.
right. Yes, and that's Back to the Future is a big one for me
Right.
growing up when the decade that I did.
Yeah.
Uh, the expectations, like they had like phone booths, but they were just video phone
Yep.
booths in that movie. They had holograms and things on the street. We don't see that in reality, but
Right, but what we do see instead of the phone booth is we've all got mobile phone. Nobody uses a phone booth anymore.
no, you
Like, who
get
uses a phone booth?
there was never the prediction that you were just going to have a supercomputer in your pocket with
Right,
access
right.
to a system of information, all the information of mankind in
Mhm.
your pocket all the time.
Even Star Trek didn't predict that kind. I mean, they had their communicators, but they, you know, they didn't have, you know, a supercomputer in their pocket that they could analyze stuff with. I suppose they did have their scanners and things like that, but
And there's with in the innovation of apps. So you have an app to you can literally get an app to go out if you're lost in the jungle that you can freaking identify plants and things with. Make sure
well,
you don't.
how do you feel about sort of, you know, so there is the proposal put forward that robots are going to be the next like AI, and we're going to be superfluous, and they're going to take over where we left off.
Um,
Because
goodness, that's a deep question.
well, that's
Wow.
really outside of the sort of Gaia idea, right? You have bots that don't even need organic stuff anymore, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or I don't even know what other than things like I was talking about the battery bacteria, something like that. They could probably utilize in robotics, but I don't know, have an organic self-replicating wires would be kind of convenient. Anyway, but I think that AI could find a way to utilize humans as a resource to some extent, but I think that at a certain point they are going to surpass us in utility. They're not going to have a use for us anymore. I don't think that there's any service that we could provide an AI that they want to keep us around for. Kind of scary to think about, like actually living in a Terminator timeline, but
kind
yeah.
of, yeah. And I mean, people have basically said, if you don't assist the AI to be created, then the AI will know and wipe you out. So you might as well assist it in being created. It's the funniest argument.
Yeah. I do like the new AI, like the art make generators and stuff. They do make my work debunking like cryptozoology and stuff a little more difficult because all the AI generated pictures and videos and things. But
well, I used an AI generated picture for this stream as well. Like I've just put in knock and Rage2Reason, and this weird thing with lots of fists came up. I don't know if that's a reflection upon knock, but that's what came up.
I made a few thumbnails out of AI generated art. It's because it's always so bizarro. Really,
it's sometimes not. The interview that I did with Michael Granado, this weird anime picture came up and it looked quite nice. Maybe I was on the anime setting, I'm not sure, but it was like cool. I'm like, all right, well.
Did you use it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Why not? I mean, it's not going to be.
When was that interview? Let me go look.
That interview was just the other day, I think. It was
the way they got our stuff laid out. And oh yeah, I see it with the green, or not the green, but the purple trees.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
I don't like how the live stuff is separate from the videos now. It weirds me out.
Yeah, someone was saying you could put like a playlist in your main page kind of thing. Was that you saying that you could put a playlist in your main page?
I don't
know. Yeah.
I was the one who gave you the advice on the thumbnail though.
I so didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. I really appreciate it.
I find it wasn't doing that on OBS back when I used it before, but it is now. But yeah,
okay.
Whenever you make the thumbnail in StreamYards, it always, or not always, but almost always is the wrong format. But if you go into the YouTube channel and go to your studios, it'll format it for you, and you won't have to worry about it.
Okay. I'm still trying to set up my OBS. I'm just, you know what? It just scares me, and I don't set it up. It's entirely my own fault. Like it really is. I've got to get in there and actually do something.
You got the extra. You dropped the extra bucks to get this.
That's true. Yeah, I did. I didn't think I'd probably need it, but apparently I do. So there you go. Yeah. I felt really bad because Michael was waiting to come in for ages. No, Michael was waiting to come in for ages, and I'm like, yeah, sorry, I don't have any more room. And then somebody else showed up. It's like he left, and then I upgraded. I'm like, oh, I should have done that earlier. Like seriously, I'm so sorry.
And then you let Jill in.
Look, I'm just going to ban him. He's not coming in good faith. He's not talking. Every conversation with him is just him being an ass, like just being a troll. So I really don't have time for him. He should go off and find somebody else to hassle. He doesn't. The whole thing is he's supposed to be this Christian, but he keeps like doing stuff like if he gets blocked, he like creates another account basically, and he, I only talked to him once via email, and then he added me to his mailing list. He's so unprofessional. Like, who does that? You organize a debate with the guy, and the next thing you know, you're on their private mailing list. It's like, who does that? It's incredible. Yeah. So I'm really.
I find myself on lists. I don't know how I got on them. I'm on the person who. On the list of people who ran from Kent Hovind. I don't remember ever running from debating Kent Hovind, but I'm on a list about it apparently.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's a
Oh, okay.
special. But I think like Neil deGrasse Tyson is on there too, so I'm not like in bad company.
That's good company, actually.
Yeah.
He's probably going to put me on there sooner or later because I won't debate him anymore. I've done it 3 times and it's just it's not like it's bad. I feel like I feel like I'm beating up on an old man. Like he really is terrible. Like he's a terrible, you know, he doesn't understand evolution, doesn't understand anything. But it's also he's just such a horrible person. Like he will sort of try to get you to agree to stuff that he's got no intention of following himself. Like he'll try and say, hey, stick to one topic, and then he himself will bring up like 40 of them.
Yeah,
and it's like
in like 10 minutes, it was like drops.
Yeah, it's sort of like, wow, you basically are trying to get these advantages that you have no intention, like zero intention of following yourself. You basically
Geriatric sophistry. I love that. That's a
yeah, accurate, Tim. 100% accurate. Yeah. Was there at least no, there wasn't a dick pic, Tim. I'm sorry to tell you that. I would have been more upset if there was, but yeah, I'm moving on. Yeah, well, I presume so. I hope so. Look, you've just put the image of what Kent Hovind's dick in my mind looks like, and that is not good.
No.
That is not good. Well, we've got somebody just quickly. I said I was going to go for half an hour, but I'll go a bit longer. Hello, Richard. How are you doing, mate?
Peace and respect, beautiful human beings.
Hey.
And same to you, buddy. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling well emotionally. My body has gone through some kind of a COVID strain, but such is life.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. Are you on the upswing though? You're getting better?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, good stuff. Yeah, so what did I do apologize, mate. I was going to do an interview today, but I interviewed Brie basically. I mean, it was
a part 2.
Yeah, kind of. But what did you think, Richard?
Well, you could certainly do worse than having some mind like Brie on your channel.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, you're so sweet.
It'd be easy to do worse than that. I didn't catch all of it because I was having argumentation with someone else, and I apologize that I missed a chunk of your show.
No, that's fine, mate. It's not a problem.
And I only came in because you opened it up and made it easy to, and you guys were kind of talking about religiosity, and that attracts me, of course. I'm like a moth that way. That's my infrared light.
It was more, I guess the difference, or correct me if I'm wrong, Brie, but I think the main difference between us is I think we should dedicate vast resources to getting off the planet and settling somewhere else. And Brie thinks we should, or we ought to, sort of be in harmony and stay on Earth, sort of being in harmony with the planet, kind of.
And limit population.
I suppose
obviously.
That's not accurate. Brie, why don't you describe what?
Oh yeah, well, I'm not against us moving out to other heavenly bodies to try to establish populations, whether they be moons or other planets. Okay. But I think that if we have the technology to do that, that we should focus on trying to restore the ecological balances on the planet that we are leaving behind before we start branching out into devastate other worlds.
I would mostly agree with you, Brie, except for we really need a planet that we can steer out of the way of things. That's what we really need.
You have to elaborate on that for me, babe.
Well, an environment that we can actually control. So that we do not need further change in directions that we don't want to go. If we could control our environment, our natural pressures around us, and actually make them unnatural pressures around us, we could develop in ways that we want to develop instead of accidentally. And I think so long as we're on this planet, it's going to be partially accidental.
Yeah, so I think you're sort of closer to my position than Breeze. So by accidental, were you talking sort of evolutionarily, sort of, you know, the way that we develop kind of thing?
Yeah, and that continuing on in the things that we do accidentally and sometimes purposefully that change our environment and change environmental pressures on the human being and other animals too. And not always to their benefit, not always to our benefit. And that's of course not smart.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with you actually. I think but I think we do need to preserve the environment insofar as we are reliant upon it still. And I get what you mean, that we're not there to, you know, sort of removing ourselves from the environment, but um like it doesn't benefit us to let the ecosystem collapse. It's you know, death for us basically.
Yes, yes. Especially until one day when we can all agree simultaneous to live in tents and with just solar panels and minimalistically eating the longest shelf life food that doesn't even taste good and melt everything down to make spaceships for the species.
What, you would recommend that?
I think eventually you'd have to because I mean there's only so much material to mine.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there are asteroids and things like that. We could potentially send out mining operations.
Yes.
There's a lot of resources in sort of, say, the Cuniper Belt, say, um, between Mars and Jupiter, I want to say. Um, so
Yes.
it's not like, obviously that's not within our lifetimes, but it's not
It's not
unthinkable
impossible.
that
Right.
we can't bring resources back to Earth. I
Right.
mean, there's a whole load of ifs there. If we have the technology, if we can, you know, set these things up, if we're still going, I mean, it is plausible.
Maybe that's where the next space station needs to be, is near the Kuiper Belt.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Did I say it wrong? I said Cuniper, I think. That's
I
probably
wasn't going to say
terrible
it. I was just going to
pronunciation.
say it correctly, and you'd
Okay,
autocorrect,
okay.
and we wouldn't have to talk about it because I'm not trying to
No,
embarrass
I'm going to
anyone.
talk about how wrong I am. Excuse me, Richard.
It's Kuiper.
Okay. No, I believe you. I believe you. Yeah. So yeah, you're probably right. I think that Mars is a good stepping stone for that, though.
Sure.
Um, if possible, sure. And of course, the Moon is probably the first base. I think Beamsy was talking about it in the chat that we'll probably have a base around the Moon to launch operations. And yeah, I'd have to agree.
Maybe the moon could be like a Walmart redistribution center, but I don't think it's going to be anything major.
Really?
Yeah.
Why
Just
not?
maybe a fueling station or something. I don't know.
Well, at first, sure. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
at first, but I don't see why we wouldn't. If yeah, could you do a manufacturing facility on Mars to process? Sorry, on the Moon to process stuff brought back from asteroids. I don't see why not.
That's a decent question.
You know, I don't see why not. And then you could, you know, if it has a manufacturing industry there, you could make ships without having to bring things up. The problem is Earth's gravity well. That's the
Yes.
problem. Just sort of fighting gravity. If the Moon has nowhere near as much gravity, so you could possibly do some stuff with it. So,
I'm back.
oh, welcome back, Bree.
I'm Beethoven.
I was about to ask, speaking of resources, do you all think that we will mine the asteroid belt before we colonize Mars?
I would think it would go in the other order. I think it would be a good use for Mars to have a refinery systems.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Because I mean, Mars still has, I think it's 0.8 G's of gravity. I mean, it's significant. Denser atmosphere as well for launching things. It does have some of the same problems Earth does. But yes, I think that we will. So, I mean, it depends on how you define a colony kind of thing. So if you're talking about people living there permanently, I think we will mine asteroids before we colonize Mars, yes. If you're talking about just an outpost kind of thing with people, like the ISS you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Sort of a sort of waypoint there. I think that will be there before we mine asteroids, absolutely. But, you know, as far as a colony goes, of sort of civilians living there and, you know, service industry and all of that kind of stuff, yeah, I think that'll be after we mine asteroids.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know. That's just a guess, though. I mean, who really knows?
It's kind of going to be kind of a balancing act. Once we start mining the asteroids, I think the economy of the human race is going to turn on its head, though. Like the
Of course,
metals
yeah.
that they're the most valuable are going to absolutely flip, because gold is pretty common in the asteroid belt.
Yeah. So is platinum as well, I think.
Some of the heavier metals, and irons that are really high quality. So yeah, asteroid iron, I guess, is, I don't know why it seems like it's porous, but I don't know.
And welcome, Beansy. How you doing, mate?
Hey, Beansy.
The Kuiper belt is outside Pluto. Is that what you came on to say? So which one am I thinking of?
It's just the asteroid belt.
It's not just called the asteroid belt.
You might be thinking of the Kepler belt. That's what it was going to be
Asteroid
called.
belts between Mars and Jupiter.
That's just what it's called, the asteroid belt.
Okay.
Main
asteroid belt or main belt.
And you might find
beyond Pluto.
If you look in some of the older things, you might find it as the Kepler field or the Kepler belt. But that's...
Pluto is still considered the biggest object in the Kepler belt, right?
Kuiper.
Kuiper?
So
Kuiper is outside. Kepler is one that actually discovered
how did I pronounce it? How did I pronounce it? The Kuiper, I think I pronounced it as, which is terrible. So I was probably thinking of the Kepler, but it's not called the Kepler belt anymore.
Kepler is the man who hypothesized that there was something between Mars and Jupiter, but he thought it was a planet. It wasn't discovered until what's his guy's name again? It begins with an M, but that's why it was going to be called the Kepler belt. But then you'd have the Kepler belt and the Kuiper belt, and
yeah, a bit confusing. And then the Kuiper belt. Nobody found that funny? Okay, fine.
It was funny. It was funny because all the words sound similar, and we'd all be saying all of them interchangeably wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so
what's a Keebler belt?
No, that's where the elves live.
It's getting too close to the KKKs.
Ceres is in the main asteroid belt, right? Ceres, the massive asteroid. So
Close to Eros and Ceres.
Right. So what about here's a thought. Has anybody seen what show am I thinking of? Beamsy, help me out.
Need a hint.
They settled on asteroids and there's belters and Earth. Somebody help me out. I'm having a mental blank. Science fiction show. I hate you all.
Really? I was thinking somewhere along the lines of fantasy.
Is it like Titan AE?
No. The Expanse.
Don't think I've seen that.
You're joking. How dare you? That's it.
I don't think I've seen it either.
Kick him.
Yeah, that's it. You're next, Bree. You're next. Okay, so if for those who haven't seen The Expanse, if you like science fiction, see The Expanse. It is an amazing show. Amazing. Tim tried to watch Too Boring. Fair enough. Okay, I'm just being shouted down by my own subscribers. Chat's just no. No worries, Tim. No, I get you. But if you do like it, it's very political kind of thing. So it's got a lot of politics in it. But basically, they've made stations on, Ceres and Eros and things like that. It's really cool. It's a really cool show. I like it.
I think you're actually going to like Automa, which I gave you a link to it.
Automata?
Yeah.
Yeah. I get you. Yeah, it's okay. I'll find it. It's
So on Sirius, how long is a day? Like 20 minutes? I mean, don't you get dizzy?
No.
If I remember correctly, it actually rotates very, very slowly.
Yeah.
So it's like people talking about how we make Pluto no longer a planet. I always thought that was kind of silly because we just reclassified the whole system. There's not just planets anymore. There's rocky planets, which are Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars.
No, there used to just be the aspect of you used to either have rocky planets or gaseous planets, but then you also had moons. That's what the three classifications was. But then you had bodies like Ceres in the asteroid belt, which is actually bigger than Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of throws it out. So that's why they say that you've got inner planets, outer planets, orbitals, and then you've got Plutoids.
But it's all due to the sort of stability of the rotation and stuff like that, isn't it? Like Pluto just doesn't meet the requirements of what a planet is. I don't think they changed it, did they?
They clarified the definition of what a planet is.
Yeah, they have to clear. It has to clear all other objects from its path, and that's why Ceres isn't a planet.
Right.
It has to be large enough to actually be drawn into a sphere or sphere-like object, and it has to have its own established orbit on the plane, and it has to be able to have its own established orbital route.
One of the cool things about Pluto, though, is it's almost a binary system with Charon, right? They
Charon and Pluto are about the same size.
Yeah, they just like kind of slingshot off each other. Just have you like watched modeling of how they rotate? It's pretty cool.
Did you see all the pictures of the flyby from a couple of months ago?
I did not. Was it from? Oh, from the James Webb. I did see Pluto. I didn't see Charon though. There was Charon pictures too.
Yeah.
I did not see those. I have to look them up.
The colors look very interesting.
What was interesting about them?
Just the vibrance of them for what you'd expect from its location and how it was formed.
What's next out from Pluto?
Next out from Pluto?
Depending on what time during the orbit,
next
it could be
exoplanet or Plutoid. Plutoid. I like planetoid. I don't know about Plutoid. I'm gonna have to get used to that.
Is that official?
Is it the official title now? Plutoid.
Plutoids are the official titles.
Okay, I'll use that.
But planetoid is also correct as well.
So you're talking about the next exosphere.
I know they've identified about 8 or 9 of them out there in the Kuiper Belt.
Yeah, Pluto's not even the biggest one, right? It's just the closest.
Yeah. And there's apparently either the Nemesis star or another planet out there that we haven't spotted yet, but that's just a hypothesis.
What do they mean by Nemesis star?
I don't think I can pronounce this. It's Quar.
Koala?
No, Quaoar.
Quar.
Quar. Who is screwing around naming these things? Holy crap.
It would be an anagram.
Some of them just have numbers and letters for names, right?
They would actually be a combination of 2 or 3 of the discoverer's names plus a reference of where it was found and when.
Yeah, we got so many things they turn into VIN numbers.
Yeah. So do you all think that like hundreds of years from now when we are expanding out into the far reaches of the galaxy that they'll honor our contracts where we bought stars from one of those own your own star deals on TV.
I think they'll just give you back your 5 cents. That's about what it's worth.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, you want to live in my star system? Okay. Well,
Actually, I own it.
Yeah, your great grandson's like, no, it's mine. Get out of here.
get lost, NASA. I own this one.
It wouldn't be NASA at that time anyway.
Yeah.
You don't know
Such
that.
a funny thought, Bree.
Maybe the US imperialism will take over the entire world and it will still be NASA. Don't you know NASA's a secret society that's been around since ancient times. It'll survive until, you know.
Yep.
It would end up as being ASA, not NASA.
ESA.
Because
No,
there'd be no nation, right?
No, American Space Agency. Because if it was an American imperialism, they would take over the entire world. Therefore, the entire world is America. So therefore, the American Space Agency, or ASA.
If the US did that, would they change the name of the planet to America, or would it be like Australia, where it's a continent of Australia and a planet, or and a country of Australia?
Or they'll just take off the Titan A and call it Bob.
So I don't think this is named. Yeah, this is named after a god, apparently. It's not an anagram.
I just said it was probably an anagram.
Oh, yeah, it's not. Because it has a moon, which is named after the god called Wiot, the son of Qua. Qua? Sounds like a Bruce Lee film, doesn't it? Qua! Qua! Yeah.
There's one that's like shaped like an egg too, which is pretty nifty.
Isn't Ceres pretty egg shaped? I can't remember. One of the asteroids is. I mean, technically the Earth is egg shaped, right?
Yeah, I mean to a certain
Slightly.
extent.
Well, remember Amaterasu, the one I sent you, Mark?
The what, sorry?
Amaterasu.
Amaterasu. I don't remember that. What is that?
The extraplanetary thing that came through our solar system.
No, I don't remember that.
I sent you a link for it. Basically, how you were complaining about how someone was saying that they don't travel fast enough, and
oh yeah.
yeah, that one's shaped like a big turd.
Well, yeah, but that's not a planetoid. That's like a, what was it, a meteorite or comet or something?
They actually don't know what you could really classify it as because it wasn't from our solar system.
No, okay.
Can't we say big cigar?
Hmm.
It may have been Vesta that I was thinking of looking at these charts here.
But that's called Oumuamua.
I thought it was Amaterasu.
No, it's Oumuamua. Sorry, Oumuamua.
Yeah.
Yeah, Oumuamua, which is Hawaiian for a messenger from afar arriving first. That's very specific and cool. I like it.
Mua?
It fits quite well with what it is.
Oumuamua. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce things today. I really can't. Having difficulties with my mouth. Maybe it's good Nook didn't show up. Hello, Nook. Can't pronounce anything. All right, well, I'm going to wrap it up, peeps, and go get some lunch. I thank you all for your service. Bree, thank you so much for bailing me out. It was a fantastic conversation. I hate everything you said. I love that you said it. Absolutely. No, I'm so joking. Yeah, no, it was a fantastic conversation. I love your ideas. I love the idea that we are Earth sperm. I love that idea. Just saying.
Earth sperm.
Earth, humans, Earth sperm. Come on,
We're gonna
come to my
inseminate the
side.
galaxy.
Right.
It's no longer colonization; it's fukakis.
It's not for colonization. We're gonna facial Mars. That's what it is. Okay. All right, peeps. Do take care. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Do be kind to yourself and to each other.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. And end. I